Before we start the regular programming of today's episode, we did want to quickly announce that we have launched the new Simtheory. It's available right now. It has an MCP app store, which for the first time makes MCPs accessible so you can connect to all of your data, do research across the sources that you want to do, and also take action like put meetings in your calendar, answer emails, and go and do things on your behalf. There's a ton of MCPs. We're going to add a lot more. And you also now have access to the agentic workflows that we've been showing off over the past few weeks on the show. For example, going off and doing research for new AI models like GPT-5 and then writing your very own diss track with the Suno MCP.
GPT-5, who arrived, I did, new goal line, watch me rise, I slid.
There's also a new tabs interface. You can work on many different tasks at once. It literally will change how you work with AI because you can work on many things in parallel. If you are interested, you can sign up at simtheory.ai and use the coupon code, and this is the best bit, still relevant to get $10 off USD, either a monthly annual plan, or if you're an existing customer and you do need to upgrade, you can use that coupon as well as a thank you. All right, back to scheduled programming. So Chris, this week it's finally here. GPT-5. Is the Twitter sphere going crazy over it? I'm not really seeing it just yet, but let's have a quick excerpt from the live 1 hour and about 16-minute stream where the gaggle of nerds was out. It was a lot. The gaggle was huge. There were gaggle transitions.
Multiple groups.
Yeah, there was a lot of girls in the presentation as well. So let's now watch it and see a little excerpt here.
We focused a lot on the intersection of engineering and research, and we think you'll really love working with this model.
I'm Greg Brock.
Bit of a transition here.
Thank you, Michelle.
Okay, so that's all I wanted to show, and you got nothing out of it apart from the fact they put Greg Brockman in at 49 minutes and 26. So Altman basically like got his sort of current like in gaggle, the cool gaggle of nerds out first. And Greg seems on the outs because it's like 49 minutes in. Oh, Greg can share the boring developer stuff with.
He's like contractually obliged to appear in the presentation or something like that.
Anyway, so he goes on for a while, but I don't know the presentations. I think you said it. It went from, I thought the early presentations they did were pretty good. Like they were really exciting and you were like, whoa, we're getting all this stuff. How cool. And this is really exciting to just, I don't know, like, I guess it's really hard to demonstrate a new model like GPT-5 and its capabilities from just like, oh, look, when I chatted here, because it's really a personal experience that you have with the model.
And I think that whenever we talk about what really blows you away with a model, it's always when you're sort of deep in a process that's very familiar to you, like through your job or your work or something you really need, and then it just nails it. And then you have that feeling of, wow, this is amazing. This is the future. It's hard to do that on a universal level that everyone can relate to, which is why, because the first thing I wrote down is the first thing Sam Altman said is, it's so good if you're planning a trip. And I'm like, is this whole thing just to plan trips? It's not that hard to plan a trip, but at the same time, being sympathetic, it's like, well, what else are you going to say? Like, what else is universal to everyone?
Yeah, I think this is the challenge they have with demonstrating the leaps of these models and what they can really accomplish is, as we know too, it's really difficult. Like I've been making for the new Simtheory a bunch of tutorial videos, and just like there's some use cases that I experience in my day-to-day where I'm getting it to like go through my emails, go through support tickets, create drafts to things, create documents, go through business metrics and like display them. And I'm like, I can't really show this stuff obviously on camera. Like I can't film this experience I'm having because it would leak so much sensitive data. But ultimately I'm sitting there like, I can't believe this is working and it's able to do this stuff.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like the more personal it is, the less you can share it, but the more valuable it is to you, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that's what's challenging is like, you'd have to spend so much time gathering all of this sample data only for people to not feel a personal connection to that demo still because it's not their data. So it just becomes very challenging. And I think that the reality is most people watching that live stream are already aware of what AI can do, especially around a lot of the stuff they demoed around their canvas mode, which, obviously Claude has had artifacts for some time. And a lot of that stuff and a lot of what we saw initially out of GPT-5 from that presentation to me sort of seemed like a slightly more stylized version of Claude artifacts that we saw quite a ways ago now. It feels like that's kind of a bit less exciting to people that have experienced that stuff before now.
That's right, because they talked in such glowing terms about it that you're like, oh, here we go, here we go. And then when they did the demo, I was like, that's really impressive. That's amazing. And then I was like, but hang on, you could do this like 9-10 months ago quite competently with lesser models. Even their own models, you could do similar stuff. And they're like, oh, well, it's better. But it's sort of hard to quantify exactly how much better it is just using those examples. Like, it's undeniably amazing, but it's just like compared to what we have, is it?
And long-term listeners of the show would know that I have trash talk, obviously, the model naming for quite some time. Every episode of the show since episode 99 has been trash talking model names, if you've been following. And quite frankly, I think it's good now that in ChatGPT, for those that don't know, they've consolidated it. It's just GPT-5. And then if you want some extra thinking, I think you can select that model now as well. So I think that's a positive in a way, is like the models should start to get out of the way a little bit more there for those that aren't interested in sort of switching between them. And then I think the other interesting tidbit is this whole idea of tuning is all you need. We've been saying it on so many shows, like the tune is off in a lot of the OpenAI models, or at least had been. And that's why people really preferred, from our experience, the outputs of Gemini and Sonnet and Opus, because those models had been tuned for everyday tasks, the tasks that people actually use AI for, versus, what had ever been ingrained in the sort of GPT-4 series of models. I think that early tuning they did sort of stuck. And I noted as well that recently Anthropic banned OpenAI from having access to their API models. So I'm wondering if they just sucked the outputs out of Sonnet, and that's how they sort of got the tuning into what is GPT-5. But the tuning is good, and I don't want to take anything away from it. They've clearly listened to feedback, and they have tuned it really well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely it's early days. It only came out this morning, but my early impressions are it's a lot better than the previous iterations of OpenAI models. But it's just, in my opinion, getting it up to the level that we've seen from things like Sonnet 4 and Gemini. But nevertheless, it's an amazing model, and I'm really liking it so far, especially the Mini. I think the Mini is quite impressive.
So let's go through just to recap. So GPT-5 obviously was announced, if you're not following, because we really just got straight into it. And there's, from an API point of view, there's a couple of tunes of it. So there's GPT-5, there's GPT-5 Mini, and GPT-5 Nano, and they all sort of have their place. The context window is 400,000, so it's quite large. It's significantly larger than what we've seen from the GPT series before. It's, if you compare that to Claude Sonnet or Claude Opus, I think it's 200K with those. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah,
They're 200. Yeah.
And then obviously you've got Gemini over in its own class, Gemini 2.5, with its 1 million context window, which is still one of the main reasons I primarily daily drive it, because I just am obsessed with the large context window, and it does a pretty good job of being able to keep track of that context. But let's now hit up the price. $1.25 per million input tokens. Once that's cached, that's 0.125 cents per million tokens. $10 on the output. Now, just compare that to the recently released Claude Opus 4.1. $15 per million on the input. So it's basically 15 times more expensive than GPT-5.
And in the world of MCPs and tool calling, this is way more significant because you need to realize that every time you're sending a request, you've got to specify which tools you have available, right? So that's got to fit in the context window and you've got to pay for it. And then in particular, when you're doing large amounts of tool calling, lots of research, lots of information, those results need to be put in the context window as well. So firstly, having 400,000 really brings it into the game in terms of proper MCP usage. And secondly, having that cheap, like significantly 10 times cheaper, means you're far more inclined to use it on an ongoing basis simply because it doesn't cost you as much. And then the transparent dynamic caching as well. So it does remember things like your tool call definitions and the tool call results in an ongoing conversation is so valuable because you don't sit there fearing, oh, well, I'm going to use up so many tokens just to do this piece of research. So I think that these elements of it are quite significant and at least for me, will lead to me using it a lot more.
Yeah, like it's either going to put a lot of pricing pressure on like the Claude or Anthropic series of models, really. On the output, Opus 4.1, that's the latest, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. $75 per milli on the output. I mean, obviously getting output tokens is a challenge, but
it makes me quiver. I've got to stop using that one. It's not worth it. It's not that much better. Like
I don't even, yeah. And then so GPT-5 on the output's $10. But then if you look at Sonnet, which I find myself still going back to, like Sonnet. This is Sonnet 4. I'm getting confused now. $3, but it's still 3 times more expensive than GPT-5. And about $5 per million on the output, more expensive. So I guess why I'm going into the detail on pricing is to show how aggressive this is. It's basically the same or similar pricing to Gemini 2.5, from what I can ascertain. I may be slightly wrong there. And then GPT-5 Mini, which you said is a good model, and I agree. It's also a really good model for most things. 25 cents input per million. Mental.
You can do inference with like change from your car.
Yeah, these are great value models with high levels of intelligence. And I think you summed it up earlier by saying, like, really outside of like I don't think this is some breakthrough model, but I do think they've caught up in important areas, like the tuning has caught up, the context windows caught up, the reduction in hallucinations that they put in their paper is apparently far better.
I can tell you now, the tool calling alone is 50 times better. Like it's so like if they've improved any area that's noticeable right from the start, it's the tool calling. It's night and day between GPT 4.1 and GPT 4.0 in terms of the way it approaches calling tools. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I did an experiment with a research assistant, like a pretty nice research assistant prompt using GPT-5. This is not even GPT-5 thinking, which is like sort of turning that thinking value up. What do they call
reasoning
it?
effort?
Reasoning. Sorry,
yeah.
that
so
sounds way
there's
better.
3 reasoning efforts. There's low, which is if you want less of a delay at the start to get a reply straight away. So in a more chat context. Then you've got medium, which is the default, which does a medium amount of reasoning. And then you've got high, which is what we call the GPT-5 thinking model, at least in Simtheory.
So interestingly here, I asked it to go and research the latest research on a particular type of cancer, potential treatments, consult many sources, and think hard. I mean, you probably don't need to say that, but whatever. It called a lot of sources. So it called 15 tools. It looked up 10 studies on sarcoma. It looked up 10 clinical results on this TCR therapies. It called Perplexity Deep Research, Grok Deep Research. And then it wrote a full-on paper here with all the sources cited. And it consulted 132 sources. And that was relatively quick as well. So it is an absolute beast at tool calling. I think where it maybe could be tuned a little bit better, just from my initial experiences, it seems to just go hard early on tool calling, smash it out. Whereas you see like Sonnet and Opus being more agentic by being like, I'm going to try this. I'll hit these 4. I didn't get what I was looking for. Okay, I'll hit these 4. So it doesn't have as much agency.
Another way to
in.
look at it might be that the GPT-5 is actually coming up with a bit more of a plan before it starts. Because I noticed in particular in the research case, rather than just going like, if I say my one's always research diabetes. I don't know why I'm so fascinated by diabetes. Maybe I have it, and I'm just secretly yearning for the solution. So I search for that, and I do find exactly what you say. Gemini is probably, I think, one of the weaker ones in terms of tool calling, unfortunately. And Sonnet will, gradually, they'll just search for diabetes generally, and then based on that, they're like, oh, actually, you know what? I probably should do more advanced queries. And then you're right. Then it'll do like a multi-tool call after 6 or 7 of them or whatever. Whereas I find that GPT-5 just straight up thinks through all of the things it might possibly want to know and just blasts it out there and gets results. Time will tell if that gives better results. But like you, I've done some experiments that I do over and over again as test cases. And what I'm seeing from GPT, whatever it is, 5, is incredibly impressive. Like, I'm blown away that the general impression of it seems to be negative, because so far for me, and this is someone who has, without exaggeration, been using this stuff for like 20 hours a day lately, thinks it's amazing. Like, it really seems pretty amazing, like in terms of its ability to understand what you want right off the bat.
Yeah, my initial impression is I'm really surprised at how good it is. I think there was so much hype. It was like impossible for them to ever live up to the expectations that they sort of created with all the hype and Singularity and AGI stuff. I did quickly though put on my vibe coding glasses, because one of the criticisms is it's a little bit verbose in its output, right? And so here's just a bit of a vibe code. That's why I've got the glasses on now. A vibe code example I did with it of a interactive 3D solar system learning hub, right? And you can just get a sense when I load this thing up here. It just goes so overboard. Like, it's so happy to go absolutely nuts on its output. Like, look at all these controls. I'm like, do I really need these to demonstrate to someone for learning? Like, you can speed up the simulation. That's pretty cool. You can make the planets bigger relative to the sun so they're easy to see. When you click on them, you can click Ask AI for a fun fact, and it goes off and gives me a fun fact. That's cool. And then you can click Focus, and it focuses in where that planet is. It'd be cool if it followed it, but I'm getting greedy here. Then you can turn on this like measuring tool, and it says toggle the measure tool and click on 2 planets to compute distance. So let's click on one and then click on Earth, and look, it draws a line and it shows the distance. So, I mean, what?
It's remarkable.
It's crazy. Like, if I pause the orbits and use my measure tool, like, let's look at Mars and Venus. So there's 282,000
kilometers,
100,000 kilometers approximately between them, I guess. I don't know if that's right. So someone will fact check that. Nobody cares. I mean, it's AI. Everything can be lies now.
So
but then
I made a game too. I made a Command and Conquer style game, and you're right about the UI. Like, I can't really show you. I should have been more prepared, but like, it's got a top bar. It's got my credits going up. It's got a power rating. I can get a mission briefing, which comes from AI. I can build power plants, refinery, barracks, turrets. It makes you build power before you can build other things. Like, it's really well thought through. There's like a log. The level of detail in there is amazing. And to compare it, I did the same thing in Claude Opus 4.1, and it has similar elements. In fact, there's a lot of similarities in what it built, but it definitely doesn't seem as sophisticated as what GPT-5 produced. I also used the OSS version, which I guess we'll talk about soon, of GPT. And it looks like, we're back in the QBasic days, so it's noticeable the difference in terms of what they produced.
Yeah, this is so
with the same prompt, just to be clear.
It's sort of like, though, this is my feeling using it. It just shoves everything in there to get you this brilliant one-shot example, so that on LLM Arena or whatever they test on, you'd be like, best model 100%. like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, and I'm not critical, because this is quite frankly amazing. Like, if you're a teacher and wanted to teach your class and put this up on like one of those smart whiteboards right now, you would have the best interactive diagram, and then you could just ask it to make slight changes before the lesson, and away you go. Like, this would be the best teaching tool on planet Earth.
Yeah.
Planet Earth, get it? Because it's the solar system visualization.
Oh,
But
yeah. I didn't get it, but now I do.
yeah, I'm turning to dad jokes. Anyway, but then I did the same thing I guess you would have done as well, which is I went over to Claude 4.5 Opus, which obviously released 2 days before 2 days before GPT-5. But look at this. I would say aesthetically way more beautiful. Like, look
Yeah,
at
that
the
is more
planets
beautiful.
moving. Like, it's unbelievable. And then you can click on them and it gives me facts about them. And I said, make a 3D visualization of the solar system for learning. I said that to both, right? So I can zoom in on this. It doesn't have as much features, but I can speed it up and slow it down. And, you know, I can click on the planets. Now it's fast if I can actually click on them. And it gives me some facts. So I would say it's pretty, like, equal. Like, this is still a good visualization. But the GPT-5 one kind of just went full verbose. And it's like, oh, he probably wants all this other stuff he didn't ask for. So I'm just not sure longer term which is better. For one-shotting demos on a podcast, this is GPT-5 obviously preference, because that was really easy. But you just kind of wonder if that tune now is a bit too verbose. Maybe they can dial it back slightly, would be my only criticism.
It's interesting because I guess it's giving like a similar thing with the tool calling, in the sense that it's doing more upfront than the other models seem to do. And like you say, in a way that's slightly less agentic, because an agent is more like, do a little bit, get some feedback, do a little bit, get some feedback, focus on the iteration. And indeed, when we think about how MCP servers work, at least in Simtheory, that's exactly the approach we do. It's an iterative approach. It's not seen as a one-shot attempt where you've only got one go at this. In fact, we inform the model, you are part of a multi-step process. You will have future opportunities to do things. You don't need to do everything right now. And despite that prompt, GPT-5 is doing a lot up front, but maybe it'll do a lot up front and a lot in the next step as well. It won't necessarily give up just because it did so much up front.
Yeah, I'm interested to daily drive it this week and then report back in terms of, is that verboseness a problem?
Should we play the "What Will My Daily Driver Be" song in full?
Yeah,
splice it in for everyone.
I mean,
who loves our
that's
musical.
gonna be the week. Maybe we can redo the musical with GPT-5.
Definitely. Before we go on, there are a few other things worth noting with the new API for GPT-5. They've
Tell us,
added
Greg.
some.
I'm Greg Brockman.
Yeah. Did you play the Greg
Yeah,
Brockman
I did.
one? I can't hear it. Yeah,
I'm
but
Greg Brockman.
when I listen back, I'm going to really enjoy hearing that. So there is a truncation option now, so you can set the API to automatically truncate if you send it too much stuff, which is quite useful because normally it would error out in those scenarios. And so having it automatically truncate obviously isn't ideal, but at least if you're a few tokens over, because they count tokens differently to what you do and the request still succeeds, I think that's a win. And then the second one is, funnily enough, one of the criticisms we've seen, at least in our own community early on, about the verbosity of the model. There's a setting for that. So there's similar to the reasoning effort, there's low, medium, and high. So you can have low verbosity. And what they say in their documentation about that is that before it does something like call tools, if you have verbosity set to low, it's not going to say a word. It's just going to do it. And then talk to you later. Medium, I guess, will say, all right, I'm onto it, bro, and get started. And then high is going to tell you its life story and stuff like we've seen from some models.
Wasn't
where they
it
just
the
love to say
original
everything.
Claude Sonnet 3.7? One of them. Remember, one of them just would spew things out to you. I think it was 3.7. It would just go hard.
Yeah, exactly. Using up those precious tokens. I wonder if they've all gone low verbosity because they simply just don't have the computing resources. They're like, we've got to stop these guys producing so many tokens. But so I think those are pretty interesting things. And then there's one more that's also interesting that relates to the thing I just said, which is preamble. And so that specifically relates to tool calling. So preamble is, do I say anything before I call the tools or not? And so if you set the preamble to low or off, I forget the exact setting. Sorry, because it only just came out. But essentially, if you set it to the lowest setting, you're not going to ever see anything prior to the tool calling. Now, I don't know how I feel about that, if I necessarily want it or not. But having the option there, I think, is really good, and all that. Finally, one of the things they mentioned in the presentation that was pretty interesting is far more control over output format coming out of the model. So they talked about allowing regular expressions. For those who don't know, regular expression is like this very terse syntax for describing the kinds of values that match a certain pattern, essentially. So what this allows you to do is the model response coming out of the thing is to be guaranteed that it will match that format, which if you're putting these models as part of a bigger computing system, having that precise control over the output is a huge win, because you don't have to have all of this code that may or may not work that's trying to make sure that the output is in the format you expect. We've seen JSON mode before, which is a JavaScript object notation format, but not everyone wants that format. They have to take that format and then turn it into something else. So a guaranteed output format like that for people who use this model in other projects, like not a chat-based interface, like in any other kind of project, is a big value. And I think I mean, it's hard for them to get up and jump on the chairs and get excited about that, but I think that's a big win for this update.
Does that mean in your idea of like your app calling a function that's asked the AI for help or to do this, that really gives you a better structure to get it? Like you can really get back exactly what you want for your app as the next step?
Yeah, like I think I mentioned on a previous episode that I have a function called I will solve your problems. And so what that does is anywhere in the code that needs to sort of make a decision, but the input is a bit fuzzy, like you're not 100% sure of the input, then I use this function. And what I do is I myself have created code that will specify the output format I need in order to make that decision. So then I run it through the inference, I extract the reply I get, and then I match it to my format to be able to make the decision based on the input. So I'm doing those steps. And obviously that's a little bit fragile, because if the model's off by a little bit or it doesn't exactly output it how my code expects, then it can fail and I have to retry, or maybe it just doesn't work. Whereas with this system, I can then modify that to guarantee that I'm going to get a valid output. And I would imagine a lot of programmers, and now that people can vibe code and things like that, a lot of people will have these sort of LLM inference calls inside their programs. And indeed, if you look at Simtheory, the Create with Code, we have an LLM that can be called by the code. That's how, like in my Command and Conquer demo, it's creating the mission briefing and things like that. Now, that one is just really outputting text or JSON right now. Being able to specify output formats in that, and the AI knowing that when it uses that in its code, it can get it in a specified format, really opens up the Create with Code aspects. And we saw Altman talking about the future of SaaS and this bespoke software on the fly kind of concept. And I think at the core of it, being able to do LLM calls inside the code that the AI makes, and it knowing it can do that and guarantee the output, really opens up the possibility. Because instead of it having to include libraries for every little thing that it wants to do, it can make its own tools essentially using LLMs that work for it.
And we were talking about this a little bit earlier, that like, where do these things go from here? And a lot of it comes down to, once you start incorporating, I think, the MCP tool calling into your daily workflow, where you're like, show me some metrics, go get emails and figure out like what my team's been up to this week, or, go and do this or that. Like you're basically like in this command center, and then you get everything back as text, or, sometimes not, but mostly text.
Yeah.
That really, you have all these great models now, like say a Gemini Flash 2.5, that can just smash out beautiful UI and start to render not only how you would expect. So say you're replying to like 6 emails at once, it might render a beautiful scene where it's like a series of cards for you to go through and quickly review all the emails. And then when you get to the final card, it's like, okay, send all. And in those cards, you can edit the copy slightly. So that would speed up your workflow, right? It's useful, and it's much better than going back and forth with text. So I kind of think maybe with these ways of structuring the output, that's the direction we're now sort of running in.
Yeah, and additionally, think about things like calling external APIs and calling tools that need data in specific formats like that. All of that stuff really opens up the world of what the programs that you can build with AI can do, even if they're not sort of AI ready. So there's a lot of tools out there that don't have MCP support yet, but they do have an API. And this kind of thing will really allow you to do that. In fact, you could use it to make MCPs in the sense that you can be like, here is the documentation, here is the model, go make this. But furthermore, the AI might even be able to make it on the fly and then use it immediately, which is pretty interesting and exciting.
To like make its own sort of MCP or even a temporary one against an API and then render out
A tool.
a
and
tool
then, and
with
then,
actions because it knows the things it can do in those apps
Yeah.
as well.
Exactly. It knows the things it can do, and it can guarantee that it can get the output format it needs in order to proceed.
And this is why I keep coming back to, I've been harping on about it for weeks, that I really feel like this concept of an AI workspace, at least, you know, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or Simtheory, you're just going to spend more and more time in these apps because they're going to start to just use the other vendors or data sources as a data source and allow you to take action at scale. I don't think it replaces them fully because you're still going to occasionally go in because you want that sort of structured format of SaaS. But I can tell you, just playing around with the HubSpot and even the early prototype Salesforce MCPs, you can do so much. Like that, if I was like day to day in like a sales or marketing job, I would sit in my command center barking orders most of the day. You'd still go into some things, right? But it feels to me like, you know, all of the pieces are coming together pretty rapidly here. The next missing layer is that output UI. And then, as you say, it just being able to go off and figure out how to go get the data given these APIs exist.
Exactly. And I think there's also a marked immaturity in the MCPs available, in the sense that they don't necessarily cater the functions that they have to suit an agentic environment. So it's more like an API that has been put in the format of the MCP, and then it's up to the agent to figure out how to combine those functions in order to do useful things. Whereas I think that MCPs could be a lot more opinionated and perhaps have simple workflows included and functions that are like combo functions that do common tasks. So you're not like the AI doesn't have to reinvent the wheel every time to do a procedure that you would do in a product. So if you think, let's say it's Stripe, it might be like, look up customer, work out what their last bill was, look at that, issue partial refund, and then email the customer or something like that. You know, that might be something where you can combine some of those steps together to make it a repeatable process instead of having to start from scratch every time piecemeal in order to do those things, particularly with human in the loop. Like, you don't want to have to be in the loop of that process. It should be something that can just happen.
Do you think this is where the concept we've discussed before, I don't know if on the show or maybe just not on the show because we've been off air for 2 weeks, but the idea of MCP memory, where it remembers certain tasks that you do frequently?
Yeah, so the idea that we had was a knowledge graph specifically for an MCP in the context of an assistant. So it knows, okay, when I've done this in the past, this is the procedure we followed, and using that as a starting point for future interactions with it. So a good example of that is some of the models require like a user lookup. So they'll have an API key, but they won't know, say, the user's ID or the organization ID that they need to use in all of the tool calls. So it runs the discovery function to get that data, but it has to do that every time from scratch, every time, unless it's in the same chat session, obviously. And so that's no good. So what it should be doing is going, okay, I've memorized that data. Now, when I do future tool calls, I don't need to do that because I've got that available and I can use it. And then that's like a little database you curate and it gets smarter. So I think that kind of thing is going to be really important. And the reason it needs to be specific to that assistant MCP combination is you might have more specifically connection, because you might have more than one account, or you might work with, one might be a home thing and one might be a work thing. And you don't want it remembering those details when you're chatting to your anime porn bot or whatever it is.
Sending an email to your boss now.
Yeah, exactly. It's like adding a Salesforce interaction log for this experience.
Getting your heart rate from your Aura ring. Oh,
yeah,
man.
so I think that MCP tool mix memory in, again, just building a really nice context. It always comes back to the context. Context is everything. Around what you're trying to do at any given moment, even if that is the agent trying to do things on your behalf. It needs to have the right mix of tools, the right mix of data that it's been set up with, and ideally procedures and predefined skills.
I got to say, that is one of my favorite MCPs, is the Aura ring, having all my health metrics and data, and then being able to have an assistant that's a doctor that has access to the Aura ring and a memory about, anything I've chatted to it.
Might it be like, Chris, you've done less than 25 steps today. Is everything okay?
It told me I might develop cancer because I'm not getting enough sleep. And then to take melatonin. So anyway, I digress. But one thing I do want to, while we're still on the GPT-5 topic, talk about is, I think because of their foray into like deep research being the first like agentic product, they do seem to have the tool calling tune to favor research and context gathering rapidly as part of a decision-making process when the model responds, not necessarily for action. And in my early test, I was like, go through all these tickets, like my usual thing, and generate replies for them all and then send them if I like, but check with me first to approve. It did like 90% of it, but it's like, I can't, I don't have access to take action on these things. And then you're like, yeah, you do. And it can eventually do it. But it's almost like those chain of thoughts that it's trained on, and none of them are trained around taking action. It's all trained around gathering context for a sort of deep research play. And you can feel that in the model when you use it with MCPs quite a lot. And it goes back to where progress, in a way, like this is, don't get me wrong, this update I think is really good for the price and the package and what it's offering is great. But I still think there's some plateau in the sense that it's like, okay, you can have good tuning, but it's like tuned to how they do tool calling. It's it's not that intelligent yet that it can sort of just like figure it out.
Yeah, I think the other point to make there is something we've noticed as models have evolved over time, particularly models from the same provider, is that as the models become better at following instructions, you get unintended consequences of previous instructions you built up in your AI-based system, right? So we have a lot of instructions that almost like accumulated wisdom over the years of what to tell the AI to do in certain scenarios so it doesn't screw things up, right? Like, here's how to output latex, the bane of our freaking our existence, and things like that. And you build up, here's all the hot tips and tricks AI, here's the rules you must follow, and all this stuff in like caps and exclamation marks. This is why Patricia's so anxious. And all this stuff that you're like, do this, do this, do this. Then all of a sudden you come across a model that rigidly follows instructions. And suddenly it's doing something. And you're like, oh, that's really weird. For example, one of my agents, I have just an instruction on there. Chris prefers his code in full. Always write it out in full. And this was to compensate back when the models were being a little lazy and skipping whole functions and leaving things out. It's like, oh, your beautiful method that you used to have here, and it puts some sparkles in or something. And then suddenly my code doesn't work, right? And so I have write it out in full. Now, this current generation of models, no matter what I say to it, I'm like, just give me step-by-step updates. And they're like, all right, here's the steps. Copy paste this entire file.
Yeah, here's the whole. Here's your whole product.
Yeah, it will religiously follow that instruction. And so I guess my point is, that's not the model being worse. Like, I might see it as worse because my experience using it is worse, but it's because before I was essentially almost relying on the deficiencies in the model to work the way I like to work. And it's me who needs to evolve in my use of it rather than the model itself. And so I wonder, all these people early days criticizing GPT-5 have just not, well, I mean, they can't have given it long enough to learn how to work with it, because I think this happened when Sonnet 3 came out, or Sonnet 3.5, right, came out, and no one really knew how to work with it, and everyone thought it was crap. And then it rapidly became the best model as everyone understood how to work with it and its benefits. So I don't think we should ever be too quick to dismiss a new model for that reason. I think we need to give it time and actually work with it to see what's better. And even despite all that, I think in the early days it's quite good. So I don't know if we're doing boom factor, but mine's going to be up there.
What is your boom? Let's do it now. Why not? Boom.
I
Boom away.
I think like a sort of soft 7 if we're going to talk
soft
about
7. What?
Yeah.
We're going with a soft 7. It's like a horse racing thing.
Yeah, well, that's what no, I don't mean like I'm not rating the track. I mean as in like it's like imagine like a blinking cursor and I may change the number. Oh, I just advertised cursor. Shit. But no, like as in based on another week of usage, I reserve the right to change my rating. But when we talk about boom factor in terms of being excited, I think it is exciting. I don't think I'm going to be persuaded by the sort of the X people and just dismiss it so quickly, or poly market where some people have taken a bath betting on GPT-5 being good. I'll tell you. Oh, you
yeah,
just
so
brought it
this
up.
is what happened. Like OpenAI was like up there, and then as soon as it released, they're now down to 12%. So they went from 73% of which company has best AI model end of August. I love the wording of it, by the way.
Yeah, great grammar.
So which company has best AI model end of August? The volume is 2.8 million. So 2.8 million is at play on something that is like written as which company has best AI model end of August. That's the state of the internet. Anyway, 73% OpenAI, 25% Google, and then that immediately flips to 80% Google. OpenAI,
I mean, some of the
12%.
volume could be people hedging out, but still, like, it's just I think that's a major overreaction, and to not even have Anthropic up there, like it's like less than 2% or something. It's like, have you even tried it? I mean, look, it's slow and maybe not the best, but like surely it's worthy more than 2% chance that it becomes the best model. People just have one crack
But
at it.
it's probably because they revealed their cards with 4.1 and people anticipate them not showing anything else. Because if you look earlier in this chart, I'll bring it back up. Oh no, that was XAI. That wasn't. So I'm wrong. Don't worry.
But didn't you say like they judge it off the LM Sys leaderboard, right? But didn't you say currently Google isn't even the top at the moment anyway?
Yeah, but this is like end of month, and everyone expects obviously Gemini 3 to ship this month. So I'm like honestly, if I was betting, I would bet Google will be the winner and here's why. I think GPT-5 really just catches up in many elements to where Gemini 2. I know I'll get flamed in the comments probably.
You're captured. What is it when we complimented Grok? People like you guys. I liked you guys. I listened to every episode, but you've been captured by the, what do they call it? Like the American politics.
Oh no,
bad guys.
Grok 4 we trash talked, and I think we got people got annoyed at us for being, I think, anti-Elon then or something, and then prior to that we were praising XAI for something else they did, and then we got the other side attacking us. It's truly
almost
bizarre.
like we don't take politics into account.
Yeah,
when
like
we judge the model.
we really should factor in our politics. And so anyway, yes, it is, to answer your question, yes, GPT-5 is currently leading, but here's my theory. I think in many elements and many aspects, GPT-5 just catches up to what Gemini 2.5 has. The reality is no one really uses Gemini 2.5 because everyone really uses ChatGPT. So I think that model's somewhat under the radar in the sense of like, yeah, it had huge demand and declined a bit because it's pretty bad agentically and really bad with MCPs. Let's be honest. If
I
they
must say
catch
my
up,
use of it has gone down because of MCPs because it's not as good.
yeah, same. I mostly use Sonnet for MCP use, and then for code Gemini 2.5 Pro. But I mean, after GPT-5, maybe it's just all in on that for a while. But I think what Gemini 3 needs to do to take top spot is nail the agentic use cases in MCP. If they can do that, then, you know, all of a sudden it's back on top.
The name Gemini 3 is not aesthetically pleasing to me. It needs a point. Like it needs to be like Gemini 3.5 or 3 point something. I just think Gemini 3, it just doesn't sound good, does it?
Yeah, there's something not right about it. But anyway, I guess we'll see. Like, weirdly, they hyped that they were going to release something today too, but I think they were just trolling OpenAI like OpenAI used to do to Google. It's so petty. I truly saying this out loud, you're like, what times do we live in? It's pretty bizarre. One sort of meme I wanted to like call out from all of this is during the presentation, they put these charts up on the screen, and so many people on like Reddit and on X were calling this stuff out. So this one is the software engineering bench verified benchmark. And so
Did they say verified twice?
Yeah, I don't understand how that works. Anyway, so it has without thinking and then with thinking, and then they only compared it first of all to their own models. So OpenAI O3 scored at 69.1. And then look at GPT-4o next to it at 30.8. It's the same size bar on this bar chart. And then GPT-5 is 52.8. This is without thinking, which is actually lower than O3, but on the chart, it's represented as higher. And then with thinking, it's 75%. So for those listening, you've got a bar which has a lower value of the new GPT-5, but higher on the chart. And so they just put this stuff up and people are like, oh yeah, it's gone up on the chart, but the value's actually gone down. So
it seems like maybe the marketing department produced the bars and then they asked the actual engineers to enter the values or something
they
like
did
that.
it through ChatGPT because these look like sort of ChatGPT style graphs and it's hallucinated or got it wrong. And they've been like, this is great. I don't know.
That's higher and it's pink, so it must be better.
But how they didn't check that is pretty odd.
But this is one of my criticisms of them. I think I was saying to you prior to the podcast, Apple in the end with Steve Jobs had like a formulaic presentation style that's like an icon to this day, like the turtleneck, the big reveals, the just one more thing, that kind of stuff. I was no Apple fanboy. I switched to Android's much better, but you can't help but admire the way they did that. But I feel like what OpenAI has done is almost come up with a format for a presentation that sucks and then just gone all in on doing that. It's like Sam Altman gets up, makes some futuristic grandiose statement. He's like, all right, well, my day is done. I've got stuff to do. So see ya. I'll hand it over to these
Bring in the
brandos,
gaggle.
who are different every time. I don't know if maybe I'm just not good at memorizing faces due to my lack of imagination, but they always seem different. And they're like, oh, here's what we've done. And then they like, oh, I was planning a birthday party for my 4-year-old. Here's how I did it. It's like just every time it's this sort of lame thing. And like, do you guys know what people are using your technology for? Do you know what's happening out there in businesses and companies and that people are making just this incredible stuff with this technology? And you're sitting around talking about examples that were current 2 years ago. Like then, and I understand what I said before about being relatable. It's hard to relate to everyone, but people understand what companies do. They understand the day-to-day drudgery of doing certain tasks that this technology can completely replace and do on a much larger scale and much better across many domains. Their examples are no good. Like they should be.
Well, in their defense, I agree with you. The presentation was like, as always, and we talked about this earlier on. Like it's quite a challenge to get relatable use cases, but I still think that the getting people to speak who are just not good speakers is not great in those presentations, despite what they think. I don't think it works. And then the other thing is that I think is a big problem is after it on their YouTube channel, they put out all these great video use case stories like this medical researcher and like all these real life use cases where they tell their story and what they've been doing with the model. And I think those are really good. They should have like gone and done the whole like roll the clip around like a cut down version of that to show these use cases and get people excited about this future where these tools are now beneficial. And if you see through the hype, like what impact are they having now that is good for the world? And to me, that should have been the message. But yeah, instead you get this like the gaggle comes out. They can barely construct a sentence and they're nervous. And I get it. Like, the world's watching. Why wouldn't you be nervous? But I don't know. They're not entertaining.
And then in the one presentation, they had 2 code examples. So they had the code example, the lady built the learning system, like the language learning system, which is cool and impressive and stuff. But like you say, A, it's just to catch up to artifacts, and B, it's coding, right? And then they have the cursor guy on there, and he shows it whirring away, producing some code in your thing. And I'm like, my attitude is this: programmers know about this stuff. They know the possibilities, they know these options are available to them, and they know how it works. Showing that accomplishes nothing.
I'm Greg
The
Brock.
people in my life who I run into, and people I meet for the first time who find out, the area I work in and whatever, want to know about AI and what it can do for them. Like, this is everyone, like not even people necessarily in the corporate world. Everybody wants to know how it can be used for whatever it is they do, whether it's education, as a student, in a business, in a company, for a charity, whatever it is. People want to know what it can do for them. And these guys have such a massive platform, and it can do so much. And they give 2 coding examples in the same thing. Everybody freaking knows it can do code. Like, it's not surprising, and it's not interesting, and it's not that impressive. Anymore. Sorry. The concept
How
itself
far we have come.
Yeah, sorry. The concept itself still blows me away, and I use it every day, and it's absolutely amazing. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, relatively speaking, for today's announcement, you're not exciting anybody by showing it spitting out a bunch of code. It's just not.
But don't you just think the magicians revealed the trick now, and like no one, like, it's sort of like the first time I used like the autopilot feature on a freeway in my car, and it drove itself basically the entire way. And I was like amazed by it the first few trips. Now I just take it for granted. Like, I get on the freeway, I like knock it on and forget about driving completely. And it's just become normal. And I think the wow factor that is missing is maybe, like really exciting. Like, here's what it can do that's new. And I think that's where they're struggling. But why not just have a diss track segment in the presentation? I mean, that, and get a performer as well, like dancing to it. Or do a film clip where it's like Sam and Greg Brockman.
I'm Greg Brockman.
And they're like,
I guess Moshi isn't OpenAI, but it'd still be good to have it.
But anyway, so some people on X, one person did, asked for a diss track. And so for those that don't like the diss tracks or our musicals, you can skip ahead. You can skip out. It's like 3 minutes. So we'll get it done fast. But here it is. I made this visualizer, and of course I made it with GPT-5, which is hilarious. I've got the vibe code meme in the background, and I've got the general. You can see some of the tests that people do with AI. But anyway, I've also got a visualizer with Sam Altman's face that sort of beats up and down for those listening. So it's pretty cool.
Imagine the effort that would have gone into in the past to build something like that. And you're just doing it as a joke. That's what's crazy. There's so much being created. There's a song that we created that I can't talk about on the podcast, but it just every day I listen to it and I'm like, this is so unnecessary, but I love it so much.
I wish we could share the story and that song. Maybe one day we will.
One day, yeah.
It actually hurts me of laughter to the point. You sent me a message a while back saying, just a reminder, this still exists. And I was actually rolling on the floor laughing when I re-listened to it, because I was like, oh my God, it hurt. Yeah. All right.
And do you want to are we going to cover 11 Labs later, or do you want to mention why you use Suno and not 11 Labs for this?
No, I'll do that after, but let's hear the track. And I do want to call out something very special here is whatever they did, like everyone was saying O3 Pro is really good at creativity. And remember, we did the sci-fi novel chapters with it, and it clearly stood out to most people as the winner.
Yeah, so that was fun. We should do that again.
I actually did do it again, but I think it's just too much audio. But anyway, so I've got the track. Now, I want everyone to listen carefully. So here is how I constructed it. In fact, I'll just bring it up for those that watch. So you can see for the first time my like methodology in this.
Oh yeah, big reveal. Everyone's like, take notes, guys. This is how Mike produces the weird visualizations.
No,
and
not the weird
crappy
visualization. My poor diss track. So it's up on the screen. All right. So it said, use all available research tools to get the latest information about the release of GPT-5 and Claude Opus 4.1 and how they compare to other models. Once you have enough research, write a rap battle style song from the perspective of GPT-5. It should be Eminem style rap battle and be a diss track, dissing competitors like Grok, Opus, Gemini, etc. The chorus should be extremely catchy and well written. About why GPT-5 is the new best model. Be creative, think, and work hard. I don't know. I always add that because it just feels like I should. All right,
Are you going to share the rest?
Back to the song.
Oh, but I mean, then what? So then it went off, did the research, made the song.
Yeah, so it just goes, smashes research. No, this is where GPT-5 falls down for me. I'm like, okay, now actually make the song, because it won't call any action tool. It'll only do research.
Interesting.
And then it just rewrites it. And then I had to say, use make a song MCP to create this song, please. Now, with other models, you don't have to do that.
It could be tuning, though. Like, this could be our fault. I think that, like, I agree, the other models in the same environment and the same prompt are doing it. Nevertheless, I think this could be overcome.
Yeah, we'll tune it better. But anyway, like, I'm just saying, like, when I do this normally or have for the past many weeks, it'll just spit it all out in, like, agentically and kind of step through it. So I'm going to blow up this visualizer because I want to have the lyrics up on the screen so I can say them. But we'll play it in the more exciting one here. So with all that introduction, here's the track.
Sound check, crown check, I'm live in your chipset. 5 rings, 5 flames, 5 mics on a hit list. Boot sequence booming. I don't fumble the premise. Every line verified, no rumors, just metrics. I'm the upgrade with an up-tempo uppercut. Razor in the rhyme scheme, rivals get buttered up. Chain of thought, chamber, dot chamber, then chamber up. Patch real bugs while your hype train shutters up. Swip bench, I bench press the effects till the repo sings. Ship clean, diffs, no flukes, just determinate stings. Context colossal, keep the plot line stitched. Even long arcs collapse when my logic gets switched. Tool calls tight. Orchestration like a metronome. I'm the product of precision, you're a demo tone. Health ass, I tread light, never bluffing the charts. When the stakes are clinical, I put safety in the box. GPT-5, who arrived, I did. New gold line, watch me rise, I slid the truth at a soundtrack, I'm the high fidelity guide. Hook, lock, tight, every token stride. GPT-5, best alive, I'm mid, benchmarks blank when I think I hit. From code to the clinic to the boardroom vibe. If it's not GPT-5, it's barely getting by. Opus 4.1, you refactor with grace by run multi-turn missions like I'm lapping a race. Agentic in the terminal, cute clap for the pace. I blueprint the whole sprint, then I'm back for the space. Gemini deep think, that's a deep sync. Cost million token memory just to wander and get lost. Multimodal murals, yeah, your visuals gloss. But when logic's on trial, I'm the gavel and boss. Grok with the chalk talk, math class minutes. You ace a few tests, cool, now pass sentence. Cause in the end, shipping is a different sport. I turn benchmarks into backlogs, then close the report. I don't flex on a timeline, I flex in production. Reduce error rates with surgical reduction. No smoke, no mirrors, just crisp conduction. Every thought trace anchored in robust structure. 5, who arrived, I did. New gold line, watch me rise, I slid the truth at a soundtrack, I'm the high fidelity guy.
All right, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I never like it, but I think that other
I never
people
like it. I hate this segment.
Yeah. Whenever I hate it, all the YouTube comments are like, that's amazing. What a great rap. It's impressive. I mean, the words are good.
GPT-5 who arrived, I did. New gold line, watch me rise, I slid. If the truth had a soundtrack, I'm the high fidelity guide. Hook, lock, tight, every token survives. It's pretty good.
Did it say shit, by the way?
I don't think so. No, I think you made that up.
Maybe it said ship with a P.
I would like to be able to mix sounds in. Like, I'd like the I'm Greg Brockman in the, like, as a bit of a, like,
like a sampler.
Yeah, I'm going to try and figure out how to do that. But look, I don't know why we do this because neither of us are experts or huge hip hop fans, but I feel like it just brings out something in the models and their ability to pull this off.
Yeah, because I guess the lyrics are king in that kind of song, right? Like, you can't just go back to like a simple catchy chorus.
Like, listen to this. Like, to Opus, nice edits, but I edit the edit. Then I pattern the patterns till your metrics regret it. To Gemini, star charts, but you orbit the hype. I'm the gravity well, making all planets align right. No Filler no filter, I'm the standard supply. If truth's on the scale, I'm the weight that applies. Like, it's referencing all of the sort of key strengths.
It wasn't referencing your planet's demo, was it?
No. It's just using the Gemini, like, space metaphor, I think, to trash talk it.
Oh, right. I get it.
But I, like, honestly, I think I don't know. It's hard to say because I haven't listened to them all recently, but I would put that as like either top or second in the sort of diss track sphere. I still the Claude, is it Claude Sonnet 3.5 or 3.7? One of them is like the chorus is just really catchy.
Claude who?
Claude who, yeah. But the rest, like, honestly, this track, yeah, I think it's really cool. I'll play the whole thing at the end, and I'll put a link in the description below to that crazy visualizer I had up on the screen as well. So if you want to hear it again, if it's your thing. To those that it's not, welcome back. It's now over. And so, yeah, we'll get on with it.
And if we get time, we'll make GPT-5 the musical.
Yeah, GPT-5 the musical. All right, so we probably should move on. So GPT-5, your boom factor... Today. 7. It's in stores today. It's available on Simtheory. If you use the still relevant code, you also get $10 off. So it's $5. $5. It's pretty good for a whole month. So, all right, let's talk about the open source release, which now no one cares about. It was clearly a dud because they it's like bury the
exciting
lead
for about 15 minutes on the day.
Yeah, it was a full bury the lead. Like, once Kimi K2 came out, I swear they were going to drop this weeks ago. And Kimi K2 comes out. It's way better at tool calling. It's got like better context. It's just a better model.
I'm still using Kimi K2 on a regular basis.
It's good. It's good. Yeah. Like I don't, I'll admit. I do sometimes, but only to like test it out. And it is good though. Like
it's good at tool calling. It's fast, like with its responses. It's accurate. It's really good. It's great model, Kimi K2. The OSS ones seem okay as well. Like I haven't really gotten a whole lot of time to play with them, but they're also quick. They seem to give pretty reasonable responses. And I think as a basis for fine tuning and other things people will do with these models, it's a pretty interesting starting point. Like Llama, it's definitely 50 times better than Llama at a minimum. But you don't have things like vision, and so there's other weaknesses with it, but still, like, it's great they released it. The
lack of vision though is like just like a total non-starter for me.
Like vision as a company and as a model.
Yeah, so there was 2 open source variants, just to recap, a 120 billion parameter and a 20 billion parameter. Now, just to give you some perspective, the 120 billion parameter, I believe, can run on one single H100 in the cloud or in your house if you want to burn a lot of power. So it can be ran fairly economically. A lot of people were talking about how you could run it on the like latest and greatest MacBook M, whatever they're up to now. And I calculated that your payback on inference, if you were just using like on average 12 million tokens a month, would be like you could pay for ChatGPT for 16 years. So it's probably not worth going out and getting the latest laptop when that model is not even that good as an open source model, in my opinion. Like there's better ones out there, right?
Yeah, but I think for companies with privacy concerns who want to use an OpenAI based model and want to host it themselves, it's a damn good option.
It's a great option. And the other thing we noticed is it was pretty good at calling MCPs, and like it's on par, they say, with around O3. It's got 128K context window, chain of thought reasoning, native tool use. So I think in the enterprise, it probably is a really good model to consider, and something that they're releasing the ability to fine tune as well. It's under Apache 2 license. The weights are out there. The 21 billion parameter, in theory, you could use on a phone. So you could have a local model running. Again, I'm not sure why you...
the advantage of those models is like the thing I was saying earlier with the I will solve your problem style functions, where, you have something you want to include as part of an existing piece of software that's just able to make decisions and things like that. And so that way there's no marginal cost other than, say, the memory used to run it. So it's those kind of models are pretty cool, and I don't personally have a need for it, but I can definitely see how programmers would.
I think though the problem I always have is we talk about, oh, you know, the enterprise, but we talk to a lot of these people through the show, and you don't hear anyone being like, oh, please set me up the latest open source model and like let's train our staff on it, invest in infrastructure around it, because they know it will be superseded in a couple of weeks. So they really like, they're not stupid. Like, I feel like,
yeah, like at a minimum, you're going to want a system where the models are a bit fungible and you can just swap in whatever the best one is at the moment. You're not going to be like, all right, we're going all in on OSS 20 billion. Let's do it. Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
This is what I was thinking about too with GPT-5 is like, is this now a model that I can just use for everything and I don't care about the other models anymore? But then even today, like playing around with it, and again, like I need more time with it, I still found myself switching back to Sonnet occasionally because I wanted like a certain way of using MCPs. And I found myself when I had to fix a code bug, I didn't get the output immediately I wanted from GPT-5. And I kind of know already how to work with Gemini 2.5. So I just went back to it. And so I'll be interested a week in if like I am just all in on GPT-5 or I'm still switching around or where that lands.
Yeah.
Because it's too hard to tell. But I guess I still can't see a world yet where the commoditization or the capabilities of these things are so equal that I don't want to switch anymore.
Well, not even so equal that one is so far superior that you don't want to switch anymore. Because I think every time a new model comes out, we think that's all we'll use. And then very quickly you're going back to old habits and using different things. Like, I think that's going to be the real test of a next generation model where you just feel disgusted when you even look at the old ones.
Yeah, and this is why going back to that enterprise discussion, I think it's hard for them as well because it's like, what do? You go all in on GPT-5 now. You're like, this is it, boys, and then all of a sudden, like Gemini 3 drops, and it's just so much better that your organization is now less intelligent. Like,
it's like, oh, if only we hadn't signed that 7-year contract with OpenAI.
But think about that for a minute. Like, just think about the problem with it. So you go and commit to a year or two. You've got to implement and train and get everyone up to speed on this stuff. And then the next model comes out, which can surpass it at many things. So now for like another year or two, or maybe half a year while the other vendor catches up, your organization's now like less intelligent. I don't know. Like, this is why I don't think the open source models, when we say like, oh, in the enterprise, unless it's for like these repeatable like functions in an app that you're building, then I think it kind of makes sense where you just need controlled input output.
The cases where the model is already good enough to fully solve whatever the problem is, and you just don't need a new model because the problem's solved. I think
okay, now counterpoint. Why bother spinning up your own infrastructure when you can just call an endpoint for like nothing now? Like even GPT-5 Mini is essentially free, or Nano.
I mean,
free.
I would say mostly for region, like data sovereignty and privacy. Like they're probably the main two remaining reasons.
All right, because we had 2 weeks off. Really, I mean, nothing really happened. Let's be honest. In those 2 weeks, there's a lot to cover though. Everything happened this week, so
everything and nothing happened.
All right, so Anthropic, before the big GPT-5 announcement, dropped Opus 4.1. You may remember the previous version, Opus 4.0. And it was I would say it was a pretty humble announcement. They are just like, hey, it's a little bit better at coding. 74.5% versus the 72.5%, whatever that means to you.
You really notice that 2 point whatever it is. It's huge.
Yeah, they say it's particularly notable for performance gains in multi-file code refactoring. So I think what they're targeting is people with very large code bases where the sort of vibe coding or like Cursor or Copilot or whatever it is, that's when it all goes to poo, really, in these models. When you have a huge code base, it starts to just go mental and do more harm than good, I find personally. And as they say, the adjustments help with reducing the bugs that it will introduce and basically the that it will do to your code base. So I think it's steps in the right direction. It also fits with Anthropic's brand of just this like incremental improvement in areas that they're focused on, which is obviously the coding use cases are driving most of their revenue, from what I understand, over half. So it totally makes sense. I played around with it a bit. I got to say, like, I didn't notice much of a difference. And the question that came into my mind is like, am I willing to pay 15 times for this model over using something like Gemini?
Yeah.
And the answer is no way in hell.
I think the other bittersweet thing for me, and this is partly the condition of the fact that we use Amazon Web Services to use Opus, is Amazon has just been absolutely pathetic in their distribution of Opus, both the old one and the new one. They literally, their staff are unable to get any more allocation for their paying customers. Like, there's no, I hate to sound like I'm on consumerwatch.com or something, but like they can't do it. There's no way. There's no amount of money that will compel them to give you actual capacity to supply a service like this. Clearly, as you've pointed out every time I bring this up, they've allocated their stuff to things like Cursor, Windsurf, whatever it is, or they're simply unable to host it. It just boggles my mind that a company that is known for being like all the computers in the world is just not able to provide a reasonable rate limit on this service.
All capacity is going to the Vibros.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what it is, but it really puts me off knowing that at any time when I work with Opus, I might get a rate limit and therefore have to interrupt my workflow.
Yeah, to be slightly fair to them, though, it has improved substantially, but it was enough early on to turn you off using it because you're like, I can't get capacity, so who cares? But quite frankly, maybe I'm a dummy, but I can't tell the difference between Sonnet 4 and Opus 4 or 4.1. Like, absolutely nothing. Like, do not notice any difference at all. And even in their own benchmarking early on, like, they said there wasn't much of a difference in many areas anyway. And if you look at the price comparison, $3 per million tokens to $15, are you really getting your extra, like, what? I don't know what it is. You're just
clearly not doing advanced maths and physics problems in your day-to-day life, Mike.
Yeah, I'm not.
If you were, you would know the difference.
I'm not solving physics with a world model. But I think this is the beauty of being able to switch, right? Like, I'm just sort of balancing my economics here, going, like, this thing's good enough. Like, I don't need to be like, hey, go and check my emails and get my daily schedule and tell me about the weather today, and use a $15 per million input token model. Like, I just want.
That's right. And a lot of those tasks are simple enough that the smaller models are perfectly capable of doing them. They'll do them faster, and in some cases probably better because they don't overcomplicate things and try to act like, they're doing the research to end all time. Like, it's like, no, we're just trying to check my emails. Like, let's just do that.
All right. So yeah, I don't think there's much to report there, but I would say at a high level that I don't think GPT-5 in any way is like some outside of like pricing and certain areas of maybe performance, like its ability to just mass tool call like mental.
It probably in a way does validate what you said probably 3 or 4 episodes ago, that you expect the models to plateau and it's going to be all around the application layer and how the technology is used. Like that, we're seeing that play out exactly.
Well, yeah, it's like AI, the AI system game now, and the sort of AI OS, like all the components harmoniously working together with applications being on top, where I think those are going to come into the AI workspace. I'm sure ChatGPT or something's working on something like this as well, where you're sort of connecting your apps in, and then you're getting the interfaces, and it's reading the tool calls and the things that it can do in those apps. So you start to basically have this sort of rendering of UI and rendering of your own sort of lens that you're working through to be more productive. And while it sounds a bit fantasy, I think it has legs, because we've been playing around with some of these concepts as well as part of the MCP development stuff. And we want to roll out like a really early alpha of this like glass window idea we have for UI soon, which is just basically generating UI on the fly based on knowing the tool calls, and then generating buttons and things in UI for those MCPs. So you can then take steps visually instead of like everything always being a chat paradigm. And so I do think that's where it's going to trend now. It's like, how do we get ROI from these systems and these tools that we're using? And outside of that, I think we're waiting on like the next level of these RL breakthroughs or different like a diffusion model potentially from Google that can do this stuff. Speaking of sort of real-time diffusion models, what a segue. So, like, those like GPT-5 released and it's over for everyone type posts on X or Facebook or LinkedIn, wherever you get your trash
Now see
media.
where Mariah Carey goes on holidays.
So Genie 3, a new frontier for world models. Look, it's not a demo. We haven't been able to use it. Logan, if you're listening, can we get access? But if if we get access, we'll touch on it again. But some lucky people did get access. Genie 3, a new frontier for world models. And because most people listen to the show, let me explain what it is and why it's nuts. Like actually nuts, not just like AI influencer nuts. It's a world simulation. So you can generate a world and then move through that world. And like if your character like paints a wall or something, you can walk back and the objects are still there. Like it's a video game and there's some sort of computer remembering that it's there. But in fact, it's not. There's no computer remembering it's there. They just push the model to this limit where these emergent behaviors came through and it just remembers the objects that were there. So it's like full hologram, but all through this model. And I like, let me play. I want to play the most interesting video. So this is a video or demo of it where I'll just set the scene. So it's a computer wired into a TV screen in a meeting room. There's a girl watching the demo and a guy watching the demo, and it's demoing this Genie 3, right? He's like navigating around this world and she's watching being like, wow. But then in the video, as it progresses, it zooms back and it turns out we are in Genie 3 watching them do a demo within Genie 3 of Genie 3. And then we go out the window and we're in this sort of like Jurassic Park landscape looking around. Like I saw that and was like, hang on, what did we just witness? Like it's like a hologram.
Connecting this to Oculus, which I assume is the play, right? Like some sort of VR, is going to be just unbelievable.
It's like Holiday. You could generate any world and be in it.
Yeah.
There could be characters eventually, sound.
Yeah.
You could get lost in these worlds. It did make me have an existential crisis. Here's why. I'm like, are we living in a simulation? Because if we can get computers to simulate this well and remember things in the world by scaling computing and like neurons, essentially, like what's going on here? Like, it's truly a dream world. I wish I know like the demos are one thing and then in reality it'd be slow and glitchy. Like Microsoft on Copilot have this demo of playing like a Doom-like game and the demos look great because they're sped up, but when you actually do it, it's so bad. But it is a glimpse of how quickly this is progressing. Like this one can sort of keep things in memory roughly for about, I think, 20 seconds, whereas the previous one, Genie 2 had consistent explorable worlds for only 20 seconds. This one can do it for like minutes, I think, at a time. So it's a huge jump there. It also streams in at 720p, 24 frames a second.
Wow.
Objects and changes persist for about a minute.
What are they running it on? The new MacBook Pro?
Yeah. If you drop something and walk away, it'll still be there when you return. Users can modify the environment on the fly with text prompts, change the weather.
It's like the ultimate. Imagine Grand Theft Auto or something like that as a game that you can fully interact with and everything persists.
What you're seeing.
Yeah, I won't play the audio because it's not that helpful. But yeah, like
the thing is, Google, despite their reputation of like killing every product they've ever created, except for Gmail and AdWords, they do follow through. Like if you look at VO3, they had hot shit demos and then they followed up with real, like, you can really use it and it's really amazing. It's very expensive, but you can use it. Same with whatever their image model is called, Imagen. That same thing happened. They had these incredible demos, probably like fully 6 months before you could actually use it. but then it came and it was incredible. I was just
Look at this one, painting a wall, and then he goes back to where he painted, and there's still paint there, and he walks away and comes back.
And so each frame is being predicted. Is that how it's working?
I guess.
That changed a little bit, the paint, but
a little bit, but I mean, it's still
well enough to make
incredible.
it you think it's real.
And then they're like, add a man in a chicken suit running along this river, and he just like, and then a jet ski. Like, it still looks like, if you look closely, it still looks really artificial, and if I'm being like overly critical, but I mean,
you could imagine people like the Perry Roden vision of people just sitting with a device on their head, having infinite content to consume is like one step closer.
Or a brain chip that does this, and then you feel the feelings and you have the like, yeah, it's very Matrix-like, where they just strap you in, put a chip in your brain, and all of a sudden you're immersed in this sort of entertainment experience. I don't know. And I guess the one other thing I'll call out here, which was my one realization, was all this stuff, like we talk about the LLMs and ChatGPT rendering UI and like all this stuff, right? You imagine this just streaming a user interface in based on what it thinks you need. Like, oh, actually, I want this.
All those like FBI TV shows where they're just using their hands and going, let me just do this, let me just do that. They were actually accurate. They were just ahead of their time.
Yeah, and look at the advancements. So like Genie 2 versus Genie 3, it's like now like crazy, like 720p. Like the original was 360p. The last one could only do 3D environments. The first one was game specific. Now it can do like anything. You can navigate around it. I guess it's a similar technology to what's in VO3 as well, because I guess the model is just sort of imagining what you come up with. But it's just imagining
really quickly.
And I wonder what emergent behaviors as they continue to scale we're going to see, because it got memory just by scaling. So it's like, what else is it going to get? It's pretty cool. And like for training data for like cars and robots, this is insane because it can just keep training RL in these worlds. If they can get the physics interactions correct. If they get them wrong and then they put it in the real world, it could lead to a lot of deaths.
But also, remember when they built AlphaGo to learn the game Go, and once it learned the basic mechanics of the game and studied a few historical games, it was able to play itself like millions of times, and that's how it got all of its knowledge and got so good at it. It seems to me like with this kind of technology for robotics and drones and anything that interacts with the real world, it can create itself any scenario it needs in order to practice.
Yeah,
especially if the physics are right. Like, you know, it could practice putting away your dishes and doing your washing up like millions of times, so it never makes a mistake.
I think this is the problem right now from some of the early testers I read, is like there's some physics elements of it that are, you know, clearly bad, but if it keeps trending in the right direction, yeah, like this is I think like this is far bigger in terms of a breakthrough, in my opinion, of any of these model updates we're seeing. Like this to me could change the world completely, because it enables like robotics and self-driving vehicles and everything to just the progress of that to absolutely speed up. I'm like, even just imagine if you just like Microsoft Flight Simulator took this technology and you know, and put it in as well. Like you could like fly around different worlds. You could simulate like drones flying on Mars, like whatever it is. It's pretty cool. If you think about it too much, so it's like one of those things, you know, in your head, you're like, why am I here? Why do I exist? And you sort of go down this path and your brain shuts it down. It's like, nah, you're not thinking like that. It's the same with Genie 3. Like you start going down the rabbit hole here and your mind shuts off. It's like, I'm not doing this. We're not doing this. So anyway, if like, I'll leave links to this below. And if you are a listener to the show and you never watch, which is fair enough, I don't do that to podcasts either, I'll put a link to Genie 3, this page below. Please do check it out. It's one of those things that I think are worth your time to look at and see and just understand what is potentially coming here.
And you're right, it really is an existential thing, sort of knowing it's coming. Like, they're working on it. We've seen the way, the trajectory these things go on. It's only going to get better and more real and more facets to it in terms of what they can simulate and more interfaces into it. So you have to consider the possibility of a future with this kind of thing available.
Yeah, and like I think the challenge right now is too, because you could think of like any game or any, like say you were working on a game or a piece of software or whatever, you sort of see technology like this and you're like, but you could just make the game, or like you could just make the, you know, obviously people still have to have like the inspiration to do it and steer it and things like that. But it's hard to not go into that zone of sort of like reality distortion and like, why bother doing anything? But then if you think about how long these technologies actually take to develop and what's changed so far, I think there's still time.
I wonder if we can get it to perform our musical. That would be the ultimate.
Yeah,
It'll
and then like lip sync the whole musical. That would be good. I'm sure that's what everyone actually wants to see from that model. Makes sense. All right, so I did want to move along here to MCPs, the use cases of some of these agentic workflows, and like where we see this all fitting in and coming together. Because I think that for me, seeing GPT-5 in particular be able to call at like 147 sources and read, like 300 research papers and all that stuff's exciting. But my one takeaway from all the deep research stuff for me personally is, if you get it to write a paper on something, or you get it to actually try and output the final product, you don't really learn that much from it. So sometimes I do want to say to it, like, hey, I just want the answer. Like, just tell me like 5 new drugs that someone could try with this condition, or, just give me the answer. Like, what's the best product in this category I should buy? Or what's the next decision I should make in this business based on the metrics and everything that you see is going on, rather than that like long verbose output.
Yeah.
So I think having control around the MCPs, especially organizationally, or at least the app layer with the models is particularly important. But it does seem like with MCPs in general, and we mentioned this earlier with GPT-5, people are really shying away from the action part. And we've seen the good and bad about this, when it just like early testing, it would just randomly send emails. And how we've like, improved that with prompt tuning and things like that. What's what's your experience so far with MCPs? Like, do you have favorites?
Well, I think the exciting ones for me are around very specific things that you do. So like obviously things like email, calendar, help desk are very useful, research, obviously. But the ones I'm seeing that are interesting are people who are building custom ones for their organizations. And there's a few kinds of those. So one of them is information gathering within their organization. So they either have private data sets, private database, some sort of information they want to use in the inference to make decisions, to produce documents, to take actions. And being able to gather that information that's only for them, only in the context of their assistant that they can then work with, to me, that's truly exciting. And then we had the idea, managing Simtheory, for example, we do things where we have to help people with their accounts. So we need to look up a particular log file if something went wrong or something like that. Building an MCP that's able to do those actions instead of going off into all the different systems will just be so unbelievably valuable. So I think that idea of custom MCPs that work for your regular workflows or within your organization, and I'm not even saying this in too much of a technical way. I think most organizations have internal processes like actions they can take and context they need in order to use it. And rather than constantly copying and pasting stuff into an AI system, having it be aware of those things, and also, as we discussed earlier, learn about those things, I think will be just so valuable. It'll be a totally different experience because suddenly the AI knows what you know. In fact, it knows more than you know about the situation you're in. And therefore, the actions you take are going to be so much more valuable.
I think too, like you have this feeling of like, oh, how is this different to having like a Microsoft Teams or Slack bot or something like that, where you're just barking commands. But I think it is that agentic property of it, where it's sort of like, okay, you're really delegating these tasks out, and by it having access to your internal proprietary data or parts, things that you only have access to, your unique data sources. To me, being able to pull in that context and then take actions and make decisions along the way for pretty defined processes, like that is a huge value add. Like that's where I'm like, okay, like when I got access to having metrics from ChartMogul and my docs and email and calendar, it's that orchestration of being able to piece all that together and then give me either context or like give me a guide of what actions to take or how to frame an email. And then there's the empowerment aspect as well. Like during the week, my electricity company charged me, I don't know, like normally I get charged say $100 a month, and they charged me $700 and then sent me an email saying, oops, we overcharged you. Please call this number to get a refund. Now I thought it was a scam, but I checked my credit card statement. They did overcharge me. So I called them, which I find hilarious that they stole from me, and then I have to call them to beg for my money back.
Yeah, don't get me started on when my gas company estimated that my usage went from $0 to $1,000 and just charged me. Like, it's just an estimate.
But anyway, so I called them up, waited on hold for 40 minutes. They knew nothing of it. They had no record. And I was like, oh my God. So like, how do I get this money back? I can't fill in a dispute because like, ING will never honor this because of whatever reason. Anyway, so I asked the AI, I'm like, what can I do here? It's like, I found the ombudsman. I found the complaints email for this energy company. It created an email. It put in like crazy legalese because I had already dragged and dropped the invoice PDF in that they had, like the charge of the bill. It knew all the details. So it put them in, it put a reference code. It emailed the local member of parliament. It emailed the ombudsman, and it emailed Alinta. And in the Alinta email, oops, I dobbed them in. It put in that email, I have emailed the following people, ombudsman, whatever. Anyway, rewind a little bit. Yesterday, I got a very nice call from someone very high up at that company apologizing in a way that a very good apology. Turns out I now owe nothing, $0. So like, think about that. Like in terms of giving power to not only the consumer, but also small businesses that just don't have time for this stuff, or medium or large businesses. Think about what I achieved. That was in one chat session. I didn't really do much except whinge to my AI about like, hey, this is going on. It checked my email. It found the bills. It emailed those people, and boom. And it's willing to go to lengths that you just probably wouldn't do yourself. That's the thing. It's like, it's effortless for the AI, but for you, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of mental stress. It's a lot of remembering how to do things. It can both come up with the strategy and execute it for things that you may not have bothered with otherwise. And it knows the law. And so I think this is where they go from being, just something you're talking about and thinking about action. Like you're like, oh, I should do that, but then I'd have to write the email. I couldn't be bothered. To it just doing it. It didn't even really ask. It's just like, bam. And like, anyway, it was a great outcome. Like it was a really good outcome for me. And I felt like an absolute boss at the end of that call. I'm like, that was weird. Like I didn't really do any of that, but these people obviously think I did.
Yeah, you got the same result. And that's the other thing about it. It will, I find, especially in the agentic context, the AI will come up with strategies that you may not have done yourself. Like you may not have thought to do that. Like some of those steps, like the ombudsman, for example, or copying in the minister, it just might not have occurred to you that would give it a lot more weight.
The other thing that I've found really interesting too is just, like figuring out things that you otherwise wouldn't have had time to do. So I'll like set it off on tasks where I'm like, can you figure out how you put in an application to this server vendor to get this or whatever it is. And it'll just chug away in the background thinking of how to do that, give you steps, or like write the draft email, or, tell you which link to insert it. And we're about to add the browser-based MCP, and then later on some other computer controlling MCPs for the workspace computer, where then it's like it can now go one even further and then fill in that form on the website in these very focused use cases this time. So it's like it's only calling those tools when it's like I need that.
And I think this is the thing we were saying earlier about having to start from scratch. The issue with computer use the first time was it had to go through so many painstaking steps to build the context and get in to where it needs to be. Whereas now, like you say, it can have these targeted assaults where it's like, okay, I need a computer for this bit. I'm going to go to this website, fill in this form, hit submit, done with the computer, now move back into the other context. And I think that we're going to see a major reprise of browser control and computer use. That's going to be 50 times better than it was before because of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and like it's funny, I was playing around again with the ChatGPT agent, and I wanted it to go and get a lot of the reference materials we use for MCPs, and I was comparing it to just getting MCPs themselves to find MCPs to see, like, you know, is this thing wildly better than just letting the agentic sort of inner clock of a model like Sonnet play out. And it thought for like almost an hour and then just abandoned ship. It seemed to be progressing quite well.
It's too much work. I don't want to.
It just sort of gave up, and you're like, not only that, think about the energy and investment. Like, it spun up a console, a browser, like a virtual, like everything on Earth. And I'm trying to give it a fair go. I really am, because I'm interested in how it works for eventually what we'll build around it. But I just can't get it to do anything meaningful. And I am trying hard. I'm not intentionally trash talking it. I think the UI is amazing. Like, you sit there watching and you're like, oh my God, this thing's doing so much work for me. Like, this is the best. But then every result ends in like, you do it, bro, or it just shuts itself down. But then in a very short period of time, I opened a tab. I asked my assistant to just go get the links to these MCPs. Sure, it didn't get them all, but I got none from the ChatGPT agent. And I got a list of several from just a regular assistant using something like Firecrawl. And then I'm like, you know, sometimes this agentic stuff, I'm sure, does get a better outcome, but I don't know. I'm struggling to be like, you know, until we can perfect this and speed it up, it's not a real use case of AI yet. Like, it's not a real thing.
I think in the meantime, like a sort of bespoke targeted case of using those when absolutely necessary, and then with all of everything it needs pre-prepared, will be much more effective.
All right. Any final thoughts? GPT-5, open source OpenAI models, which everyone will have forgotten about next week. Claude 4.1, which also maybe won't be that memorable. Genie, mind blown, hurts.
There's a lot going on. It's exciting. I think that we're the only ones excited. I think that a lot of the reactions we've seen are like, this is no good, move on. But people are just getting on with their jobs, I suppose. But I find it exciting, and I'm looking forward to a week of working with Opus 4.1 and Gemini 3.
Gemini 2.
Not Gemini 3. Well, maybe Gemini 3 if they bring it out.
But you know what's so funny is like you just said, rewind to any model, even Claude 4.1 coming out the other day, my timeline on X was riddled with like hype and whatever. You know. But I don't know, like, is the algorithm broken or something? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, no one, like, the vibe is off with this one. Like, no one really seems to care. There's a few people saying impressed, but most of it is just memes about charts from their presentation and complaints about these barbaric usage limits. Like, apparently if you're on the pro plan, you only get 32K context of a 400K context model. You have to pay $200 a month to get access to the full context, which is
and to
mental.
Put that into context, like, that's a really, really crippling change, because for me, it completely eliminates the benefit of, say, research tool calling, because you can't fit all the research or even close to it in there. You can't have a massive amount of tools for it to choose from. And then it's just awkward. There's just no wiggle room in the context window when you do that kind of stuff. it's all trade-offs and sort of lowering the fidelity of what you're doing by doing that. Like that's a major constraint.
Yeah,
I'd
so
almost rather
they expect you now to pay $200 a month.
for that.
No, for 400K context and just GPT-5. That's the product. And I don't know if it's good enough, honestly, to pay that. Like 32K, like, come on.
Yeah, that's very, very yeah.
But they
I don't
must
know the right
assume,
word.
though, that the majority of their users do not use that context, and all the code bros have just gone off to Cursor and other things. So maybe they don't care. I do not understand that. But I did read that apparently that was always the case with the plan. Like the context was crippled. Whether or not they
I
actually
guess I've
do
just
it.
never really used it that much because I have an alternative. But yeah, that's I wouldn't tolerate that.
Yeah, I
I'd
mean,
probably pay the money, to be honest.
I couldn't work with it. All right. So one final thing I did want to leave everyone with is they replaced Ilya. You know how Ilya left and they needed like the sort of the like neural net visionary guy, the what did Ilya say?
Yeah.
This is the new dude. He looks a bit like Elon Musk if Elon Musk had a larger forehead, I reckon, and didn't have the billies to pay for new hair. But this guy should have money to pay for new hair if he wanted it. He's doing fine. Like those turtles.
These guys have transcended money. I don't think they're like I'm a very cynical person, but I don't think these guys are in it for the money.
Not at all. All right, let's play the clip.
Driven by this shared goal. What adds up to a model like GPT-5 are years of investigations, aimed not only at producing a great release, but at building understanding of this underlying technology itself. And so a lot of what you'll see in this model are really just early glimpses of new ideas that we believe will go much further. There is a lot we still have to understand, and we look towards a future where AI can uncover new knowledge about the world and meaningfully transform our lives for the better. We hope you'll enjoy what we've built, and we'll get back to sailing.
What?
He didn't really say much, did he? It's like we've barely scratched the surface. We're really excited about what we've built. It's like, okay.
I also don't get the bit about like it's always in these presentations. Trust me, bro. You can't imagine what's coming, but then every time it comes out, anyway.
Well, yeah, but also I think the problem with it is that in the early days, OpenAI had that aura because they had by far the best model. Like it was so much better that them being like, trust us, what's coming is amazing and you're not going to believe it. There was sort of it was realistic that they might be sitting on something that's so much better. But now that they've had multiple shots at trying to get back to number one and they can't do it, and his total lack of acknowledgement that other people are doing precisely the same thing and at least as good, if not better, like it to act like you're sitting on something that's not out yet and no one else is working on it is ridiculous.
But
And
I
think
don't
that's
get why not just promote the thing they just released instead of being like, oh, by the way, we got way better shit than this coming.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think as software people, like I have a tendency to do that as well. Like someone will say, oh, it's really cool what Simtheory can do. I'm like, oh, you wait. Like
Yeah,
when we
that's
do
true.
this, it'll
We
be
are
better.
hypocrites.
Because you sort of lose the excitement for what's already there. So I sort of can relate to that. But at the same time, you're right. It's like the whole point of this presentation was to promote the new thing. But
I feel like when Ilya said it, I don't know. It seemed to like the new Ilya, like he was trying to be the Ilya, and like what did he see? But I don't think this guy saw
It's
much.
funny. I was watching a performance like a symphony performance last night at my kid's school, and I said to my son, "Imagine if like the lead violinist just like took his shirt off and like smashed the violin on the wall and starts like getting up and like super excited. Like how insane that would be." But I kind of feel like because it lacked excitement. It's like, it's beautiful, but it's like no one's geared up about what you've created here. Like, they need a little bit of energy in that room. Like, don't you think? It's just so flat. Like, I watched it at like the max speed YouTube would allow me to, because I couldn't get through the boredom of letting these people gradually extol the benefits of this thing. It's like, oh, we worked really hard and it can do physics and plan my events really well. It's like, just do something exciting. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing. You guys should be like, look at SpaceX. Like, they're always clapping each other. And I mean, what they do is even more amazing, but like, they're all clapping each other and there's people cheering and like people with like beer bongs and like, stuff like that. Like, get some fanfare around it.
All right. We're done here. We're going to get back to work.
Yeah,
it's cool. Good to be back. Thanks for listening. Sorry for our ranting. If you like the show, we're saying it like 2 hours in, please subscribe, like, all that stuff. If you do want to check out Simtheory, access all these models, our new MCP store, our tabs, our agentic workflows, simtheory.ai. You can use the coupon code still relevant, and that'll like help you out with your subscription. All right, we'll see you next week. Will GPT-5 be our daily driver or not? Find out next week.
What will my daily driver
be?
What will my daily driver be? When the
All
love
right,
we have...
do the rap.
Sound check, crown check, I'm live in your chipset. 5 rings, 5 flames, 5 mics on a hit list. Boot sequence booming. I don't fumble the premise. Every line verified, no rumors, just metrics. I'm the upgrade with an up-tempo uppercut. Razor in the rhyme scheme, rivals get buttered up. Chain of thought, chambered, I chamber, then chamber up. Patch real bugs while your hype train shutters up. Swip bench, I bench pressed effects till the repo sings. Ship clean, diffs, no flukes, just determinate stings. Context colossal, keep the plot line stitched. Even long arcs collapse when my logic gets switched. Tool calls tight, orchestration like a metronome. I'm the product of precision, you're a demo tone. Health ass, I tread light, never bluffing the charts. When the stakes are clinical, I put safety in the box. GPT-5, who arrived, I did. New gold line, watch me rise, I slid the truth at a soundtrack, I'm the high fidelity guide. Hook, lock, tight, every token stride. GPT-5, best alive, I'm mid, benchmarks blink when I think I hit. From code to the clinic to the boardroom vibe. If it's not GPT-5, it's barely getting by. Opus 4.1, you refactor with grace by run multi-turn missions like I'm lapping a race. Agentic in the terminal, cute clap for the pace. I blueprint the whole sprint, then I'm back for the space. Gemini deep think, that's a deep sync. Cost million token memory just to wander and get lost. Multimodal murals, yeah, your visuals gloss. But when logic's on trial, I'm the gavel and boss. Grok with the chalk talk, math class minutes. You ace a few tests, cool, now pass sentence. Cause end-to-end shipping is a different sport. I turn benchmarks into backlogs, then close the report. I don't flex on a timeline, I flex in production. Reduce error rates with surgical reduction. No smoke, no mirrors, just crisp conduction. Every thought trace anchored in robust instruction. 5, who arrived, I did. New gold line, watch me rise, I slid the truth at a soundtrack, I'm the high fidelity guide. Hook, lock, tight, every token GPT-5, best alive, I'm mid, benchmarks blink when I think I hit. From code to the clinic to the boardroom vibe. If it's not GPT-5, it's barely getting by. Get no shortcuts, no loophole flips. I squash brittle hacks or reproducible scripts. When the stakes get steep and the facts get thin, I double check the trail, then I dive back in. This is long horizon craft, not a lightning trick. I'm the sharpened scalpel, not the party pick. I'm an agent of agents, parallel threads. Fan out, fan in, while you're chasing the dreads. Your extended thinking is extended dread. I do measure reflection, not spaghetti in your head. Ops loves my cadence, product loves my aim. Compliance nods back while I widen the lane. I don't chase clout, I replace doubt. Routinely turn maybe into shipped out. Say my name in the lab or an ID pane. I annotate the why while I annotate the gain. Call me 5, because I finalize. I define the line, then I finalize. GPT-5, who arrived, I did. New gold line, watch me rise, I slid the truth at a soundtrack, I'm the high fidelity guide. Hook, lock, tight, every token GPT-5, best alive, I'm mid, benchmarks blink when I think I hit. From code to the clinic to the boardroom vibe. If it's not GPT-5, it's barely getting by. Keep the worksheets, I'll keep the workflows. You graph pretty proofs, I graph shipping goals. To Opus nice edits, but I edit the edit. Then I pattern the patterns till your metrics regret it. To Gemini star charts, but you orbit the hype. I'm the gravity, we're making all planets align right. No filler, no filter, I'm the standard supply. If truth's on the scale, I'm the weight that applies. Tick-tock, test time, I don't need 9 tries. 1 pass, 1 patch, watch the bug list die. Big brain, small latency. Why lie? I'm the cut that carves through the noise. Bye-bye. GPT-5, who arrived, I did. New gold line. watch me rise, I slid. The truth had a soundtrack, I'm the high fidelity guide. Hook locked tight, every token GPT-5, best alive, I'm it. Benchmarks blink when I think I hit. From code to the clinic to the boardroom vibe. If it's not GPT-5, it's barely God. Lights down, logs clean, crown stays polished. The myths get demolished, the debt gets abolished. I'm 5 for the future, 5 for the drive. Write it in release notes, best mono alive. Etched.